Serious, unemployed redditors who went to a highly prestigious college. What happened? I went to one of the top research universities in the country and got a STEM degree with honors. I really wanted to go on to grad school, but the program I want to do is poorly funded and they can't even guarantee to take one student every year. In the meantime, I started working temporary lab positions. I have been laid off 3 times now because of grants ending and the labs running out of project funding. I'm trying to get into a non-grant funded sector of lab work now because I'm sick of the instability. I thought I wanted to go to grad school. Serial lab positions killed that. Ended up changing paths a lot. Went to UC Berkeley. I'm not unemployed, but I'm very underemployed. I work a boring, rather meaningless data entry job that you don't need a college degree for. Pay's not horrible, but it ain't anything near what a lot of Cal grads get. Honestly, I just didn't know what I was doing. I never explored my options when I was still an undergrad, so I didn't know what direction I wanted to take things. I didn't talk to and meet all the people I should have that might have pointed me in the right direction. I got too cozy in my comfort zone with my friends and one club that I really enjoyed. So even though I graduated with a degree in economics, which coming out of Berkeley really can take you places, I honestly didn't know what to do with it. Religious studies major. It was fascinating to study, but we make English majors look employable. Plus, once you get out of the academia bubble, it's amazing how many people haven't heard of the University of Chicago. I've gotten into arguments with people out here in Colorado about whether it was a community college. Although, I don't see any English majors complaining in this thread. I went to LSE, which was free in the UK when I went. Might still be. I was unemployed for a while when I was caring for my grandmother who was suffering with 2 cancers. I got help from a local charity and now I work for them. I am incredibly underemployed compared to most people I went to uni with, but I'm also less stressed and I end every work day knowing I've helped someone. I went to one of the top public schools in the US and sort of offhandedly applied for a job with Teach for America while in my final semester. I didn't go to school for education, but I did work for the School of Education, and also had a brother that went through TFA and didn't enjoy it. So I had several reservations about the program that I should have considered more thoroughly before accepting the position once I got in. Long story short, I decided not to go 2 days before I was supposed to start training, figuring that if I made it into such a prestigious program, TFA brags about how they only accept 9-10% of the 50k applicants, I thought it wouldn't be difficult to find another job in its place. Totally wrong. That was a year ago and I have been fruitlessly applying to jobs for the last year. I think what makes it worse is that I've been working at a video store for $9 HR that I also worked at while in high school until I find my grown-up job. I can't afford to pay my bills, so I'm living the dream at my mom's. Woohoo. I would still rather work at a gaming store making $9 an hour than doing TFA. Consider yourself lucky. I also applied, but realized quickly it was a terrible company to work for. Good luck in your future endeavors, though. I got sick. I'd gone back to uni as an adult, got my degree and was about to train as a teacher when I got really sick. I spent 30 weeks in hospital over 18 months. Longest stretch was 13 weeks. Had 4 operations, nearly died twice. I'm going to need a lot of rehabilitation to get back to work before I can even think about starting my training. Went to NYU only because my parents work there and it was free to go and my grades were impeccable. Studied creative writing at the Tisch School. Didn't graduate because I felt like I was in the wrong major. My parents weren't mad. I own a dog walking company now and I'm a dog trainer. I'm actually pretty happy. Not unemployed anymore, but still really underemployed despite going to a good, top 20 university and studying engineering. I graduated last year, and I was very location specific, due to my and so applying for jobs halfway across the country was really difficult. I also had a 3.0 after college, so that knocked me out of a lot right away. Finally, after about 6 months of unemployment / working at a bookstore, I jumped and moved to where my soul lives on the East Coast. I currently temp, so I'm very underemployed. According to an infographic I just got from my college, The average starting salary of people in the same program as me is more than triple what I make. However, there's an upside. I hated many parts of engineering and didn't want to resign myself to living in a tiny city working in a manufacturing plant. My temp job is great and has the potential to turn into a real job, and it's still semi-related to my major, so that's good. I don't make a lot of money, but I pay all my bills and have savings, however small. I'm also with my so, which is great, and I'm in a fun city, so it's really my fault, because I could have probably found a job if I'd have cast a wider net and been more willing to live in the middle of nowhere, but I have zero regrets. I've been unemployed for a year. The job market in my city just sucked. Ended up taking a risk and moving to a new city recently without a job. It has paid off because I've had more interviews in the last 2 weeks than I had in the 6 months at my old location, so I think I'm close to something soon. Where you live is a huge factor in a given profession. Went to top art schools in the East Coast. Oversaturated and highly competitive market in the performing arts. Also, this particular field is dying out. All in all, was not smart to get into this field of work. 10/10 would not recommend. No student loans though, so at least I have that going. You definitely have that going. I went to Imperial College London and then completed my masters at the London School of Economics. I followed my peers into a thoroughly dull management consultancy career and took a break a year ago after spending 3 years grinding. 1 year on and I'm still making no cash, but a few of the startups that I founded are starting to come to fruition finally. That doesn't sound so bad at all. Really bad timing. I graduated with a degree in a business field that starts in the $80,000 and range right when the economy tanked. I'm just now starting to see jobs in my field open up again after 7 years of barely scraping by as an independent consultant. A lot of different factors, I guess. One of which being is that I graduated in 2008, when the recession really started picking up speed. Another factor is that I was living in LA at that time trying to be an actor. This was also when the industry was recovering from the writers' strike. Your typical 9-5 was pretty rare, and even if they weren't, it wasn't something I was looking for because I needed at least some flexibility for auditions. It also turned out I was overeducated for a lot of the part-time jobs there. I was unemployed for about 9 months, but I still worked some assistant jobs on sets and did house sitting, dog sitting, enough to contribute to my friend's rent while I crashed on their couch. To sum up, I'd say I was unemployed for as long as I was due to a combination of trying to work in a tough industry, being in the middle of a terrible economy, and not making the best decisions. Had a great job shortly after leaving, helping test a developing CHP fuel cell system. The company was laying people off. I broke up with my boyfriend and was struggling with my mental health. So I moved home and worked on getting better. Got a lab tech job at the uni I graduated from. Great place for students, but horrendous as an employer. They made me redundant because I got pregnant. Now I'm a stay-at-home mum, but I'm the happiest I've been in years. Totally skinned mind, but happy. Being happy in what you do is more valuable than anything. Some people are happy to work 120-hour weeks and travel for work, but I would find it repetitive and awful. Honestly, I envy you a little bit. I went to one of the 2 top law schools for environmental law. I graduated with mid-tier grades into an economy that was flooded with experienced, recently fired attorneys due to the housing crisis. But what really happened was that I made a big mistake during the summer of my first year. I chose not to look too hard for a 1L internship and to just take more classes. That was a big mistake. Without a 1L internship and without amazing grades, I had no chance of getting a 2L job or to work as an assistant to a professor. Without those, I had no relevant experience to put on a resume when I graduated into that terrible market. More than anything else, I credit that bad decision to my failure to become a lawyer. I spent 3 years unemployed before I was able to find a job doing what I used to do before I went to law school for half what I used to be paid, with massive student loan debt. If you're in law school, one of your highest priorities should be networking and building experience. A degree alone is worthless. I have been to good interviews in the past month and things are finally looking up, but I had a bad spat with drug addiction and I went to a really nice corporate job high all the time. Things are looking up now though. I have been clean for a few months now and moving forward. Congrats, dude. You got this. I went to a top 10 architectural college. Couldn't get a job for 2-3 years. I'd blame the market and my location. Since that I got a job and I've been on grand designs. So, don't give up guys. Still get paid crap though. So if you are thinking of architecture, give up now, guys. To add to this, the market for architecture grads is far too saturated. That and most kids in school for architecture don't know which field in architecture they want to pursue. Went to a Seven Sisters college, graduating magna cum laude with a double major. I had a nervous breakdown in my junior year that ended in a suicide attempt and never quite got back to normal. I had been completely focused in entering a doctoral program, but due to health, I decided against applying. I still want to go back, but I'm panicked at the thought of failing and going through the stress again, as I did no internships, and despite working part-time all through school, I had no real skills to make me an attractive candidate. I didn't pay any attention to application help or norms, and I failed to get interviews for over 8 months, let alone hired. In my own bitterness, I blamed my humanities degree in the STEM circle jerk in the job market, but the truth is I don't have the motivation or mental state to put myself out there and fail. I worked part-time in retail for about a year before getting a barely above minimum wage government job, staying there to use the insurance and find a doctor to get my health straightened out. I have friends who are at Harvard or work for the FBI, and I pack mailboxes at a public library. I graduated in 2013 from a well-known medical college, completed my 1-year training in 2014. It's been 8 months and I am not able to land a job. I see my classmates moving forward, making money and I am stuck. It's not that I am not trying. I apply, I go for interviews and I even did a free trial but somehow nothing seems to work. People who weren't that good have a job. Now I feel I am not good enough. I think I am forgetting whatever I learned. All those sleepless nights, good grades, quota and not to mention the huge college fee were all for nothing. Also I plan to study further but I am scared about the fee and still not able to find the job afterwards. I dropped out of a very elite Eastern US school and never looked back. Was offered several jobs in the non-profit sector, but didn't go that way. Now I sell weed and work at a restaurant part-time in my mid-30s, and I'm happy. Follow your heart. I don't know how you define highly prestigious, but this was me in 2009 when I graduated from University of Texas with an accounting degree. Was unemployed almost a year when I graduated. I applied for everything accounting, data entry, even the fast food and gas station jobs. I just wanted to work. I seemed to be stuck in that magical place of overqualified and not enough experience. Crap job opportunities took me 3 years after that to move from minimum wage to 15 an hour. I hated this because even at 15 an hour, in Austin, this doesn't get you much farther than covering your bills. For me what did it was moving the frick out of Austin on a whim to small town in North Texas after my company went under. It was my theory that when you are in a city, especially one multiple colleges, everyone and their mom has a college degree. Competition is much higher in college cities and there was nothing really setting me apart. So after about 6 months of living off unemployment I finally land the dream job in a small oil and gas company. More than double my previous income, signing bonus, quarterly bonus, annual raises, retirement, and full coverage for health insurance for my family. I don't even pay premiums, and all in an area that halved my living expenses. I find out some months later that there was only 3 people being considered for this position, and they were looking for someone young that would stay with the company as they had an aging workforce. Other guys were way more qualified than me but near retirement age. Luck I guess. But if this was Austin that would have never have happened. Try looking into moving into an area less educated with growth and job opportunities if you are having trouble, fellas. There is even some states that will pay people with a degree to move there in a certain area. Graduated in a top university with a biochem degree in August 2013 and decided to go to my home country for 6 months as a present to myself. Also wanted a vacation. Came back and started to apply and nothing. Few interviews here and there but nothing overall. For most of 2014 I was unemployed. I applied for anything that I saw. Lack of experience and poor market were main reasons it was tough. Luckily I got a job offer towards the end of 2014 and started to work on January 2015. It's a factory manufacturing job which has nothing to do with what I studied, doesn't require any education, and doesn't pay well, but at least I'm getting by until I get lucky enough to land a STEM job. I still apply all the time, but it has been 6 months and not much has happened. I do plan to go back for more schooling soon to increase my chances of landing a job. Went to a top 20 SEC school, graduated this year with a degree in psychology. I know how that sounds, but my concentration was cognitive neuroscience and I planned on grad school. When grade time came around, I was engaged and planning on moving back home to be with my fiance. I figured I'd take a gap year, find a job back home, and have my happily ever after for a little while before applying to grad school. Well, my fiance turned into an ashat my last semester, emotionally abusive, etc., and I called off the engagement in March, which left me with no job, no grad school, and looking at moving back to a fairly small area full of his family and friends. So now I'm searching for a job elsewhere, but it's difficult. TLDR. Personal reasons. Didn't think through my backup plan for grad school. I was part-time employed due to a disability, autism, for about a year, so I worked part-time and got the rest of my pay through welfare. I was in my early 20s at the time, so when I turned 21 I took a 21 plus test that they let you take when you're 21 or older to gain access to college. Aced that mother and have been studying at the University of Education in Amsterdam ever since. I got my fine art degree, but honestly, I had a much needed spinal surgery immediately after graduating and can't really work right now because of that. My future looks bright besides that. As an Ivy League senior with a pretty bad GPA, I had depression for my first year. This thread is both terrifying and uplifting. Went to MIT for undergrad in materials science. I was really into my research at that point and ended up getting accepted into the PhD program there as well. During my first year, I got seriously ill, but instead of taking time off, I persevered through my first year. At the end of our first year, we have to take part 1 of our qualifying exams, which is an 8-hour written test over the 4 classes we're supposed to take our first year. Because I was so sick during the year, I never really learned the material that I was tested on, and I failed. We do have the opportunity to retake the written exam a second time a year later, so I spent 1 semester doing research and trying to learn the material I should have learned the previous year. However, during that semester, every time I tried to study I kept asking myself, why am I doing this at the end of the semester? I realized that that was a red flag, meaning that I didn't really care about what I was decided, and decided to graduate with a master's back in December. During the 7 months of my post-school job search, I realized 2 things. 1. Companies want real-world job experience, not high-quality academic research. So I screwed myself over a little by setting myself up to go into academia. 2nd, I didn't really want to do lab-based research anymore, especially after developing a serious chronic illness. So while looking and applying for jobs, I've been doing a lot of soul searching and hoping that the right job will come. Moral of the story: if you think you want to go into academia, make sure that you diversify yourself in case things don't work out. I know plenty of people who went for high-profile degrees, got straight A's, never screwed up, was the best in class, and then just said frick it and went on to photographing weddings. I probably wouldn't mind doing that too, except photography is such a freaking expensive hobby. I went to a public Ivy University. I don't know if that counts. I'm not unemployed, but I work for my parents until I find a career. I was a history major and I did this with the intention of becoming a teacher. After I graduated, I applied to become a substitute and I did that for about 6 months. Most of the time, it was fine, but sometimes the job was a disaster. The system didn't allow me to do anything but expected me to do everything. I was banned from 2 schools for stupid reasons and I quit after the 2nd ban. Also during work I had thoughts such as, if I hit the kid where his hair is, there will be no visible bruises. That also inspired me to quit. After I quit I started working for my parents, thinking it would only be a few months. It's been 7 months now and I still can't find a freaking career. I rarely get a reply from a place. Most are just crappy sales jobs in disguise as something else if they do. And I've interviewed for a few promising places but no luck yet. I'm still trying. I'm trying to figure out if it's something I want to do, and I'm sort of doing some of the soul searching I should have done earlier. I went to a public Ivy school and got a BS in biology. My plan was to go to physician assistant school. Unlike most master's programs, PA school requires at least 1,000 hours of direct patient contact experience. My degree doesn't give me a lot of options for entry-level jobs in healthcare. Most entry-level jobs require a specific degree. Tech jobs require an associate's or 1-year cert. RN is 3-4 years. So now I'm a certified nurse's aide. CNA. My plan was to do this for a year because I only had 200 hours at the application deadline last summer. As a CNA, most of my co-workers are either nursing students or did not finish high school. The pay is incredibly low and has forced me to live at home with my parents before going back to school. My job heavily entails helping patients use the toilet. My job is, at times, really rewarding. That being said, it's not what I truly want to be doing. As the only male at my work, I don't really fit the culture there. I often feel overeducated, and my co-workers find that to be pretentious. I do admit to being somewhat big-headed. I often feel closest to the middle-aged RNs rather than the CNAs my age. It is once again time to apply and I finally have enough hours. The problem is I have the bare minimum in both grades and experience to apply. I've talked about my application to other applicants with similar resumes as myself and PAs at working in college admissions. The consensus is all the same. Not good odds for me. There really are not any careers that excite me nearly as much as being a PA. I also don't really know what I can do with my degree that matches my personality and interests, let alone put food on my table, pay the rent, and pay my student loans off. TLDR. Got a STEM degree from a top public school, worked my butt off for decent grades, held out hope that grad school would overlook not having top grades. Hope is dwindling as I feel stuck in a job that's traditionally for the working poor. Got my bio PhD from a school that's consistently ranked in the top 10 in this field worldwide. Currently unemployed by choice, because I can afford it for a while. I'm not rich, just frugal and have some savings. Have you ever seen a happy postdoc? They're some of the most overworked, miserable, and stressed out people on the planet. And the job prospects and research funding are extremely bleak at present. Someday the vacation will have to come to an end, but it is not this day. I've had 6 interviews since graduating a month ago. I've come to the conclusion that my work is good, but when I go to the interviews I am too socially awkward to get the job. I just graduated from an Ivy, so it's only been a month technically, but I'm still unemployed because I haven't applied to any jobs. I'm paralyzed by anxiety, so I keep on putting it off even though I'm running out of money, not rich or supported by parents. I want to apply to lab tech jobs, but I haven't asked for any references yet from the professors I've worked with because I feel like I'm not a good worker and that none of them like me. My GPA is low and my major GPA lower. Then sometimes I think I want to switch into programming, which I have done a little of, but I don't have much background outside of fricking around in my free time or much up on GitHub, and I end up feeling too embarrassed of myself to apply to programming jobs out of fear of failure. I know that I am incredibly lucky to have this piece of paper with a fancy name on it, but I keep on feeling like I failed despite being blessed with opportunities, and that there's no way to achieve my dreams anymore. Yes, I know I'm being ridiculous and I just have to pull myself up by the bootstraps somehow, but here I am. I went to the US Air Force Academy, graduated and was commissioned as a 2LT in the USAF in 2008. I had a pilot slot, so I figured I'd major in history since I enjoy the subject, and could be a pilot with any major. I figured I would continue being a pilot on the outside when I eventually left the AF after my commitment was up. But what I didn't plan for was what would happen if I discharged from the AF before I completed pilot training, leaving me essentially skill-less. And that's exactly what happened. After 2 years active, a chain of crappy events led to my discharge. Honorable, in 2010, and I returned home to NY and worked with my buddy's construction company, the only job that would have me, until last year, when I moved to FL to help out my parents. I've applied to countless jobs, but the only ones I hear back from are offering me slightly above minimum wage and only dead-end positions. The search continues, and I'm still pretty bitter at what went down in the AF. But, on the bright side, I got a free education. Thanks, taxpayers, and didn't have to belong to the government for 10 years. Bottom line, major in something useful. Went to Warwick for Maths UK. It hangs around the top 5 according to UA's Crux's guide, and it was about the same in others when I checked it out, so it's pretty up there. Got a job in banking in the Netherlands. Moved back to the UK after a couple of years for a better job but didn't get through the probation period. So now looking for work again. Unemployment happens. The job wasn't quite what I thought it was and I wasn't quite as good as they thought I would be. But I think there's not too much wrong with not working as long as there are still options available. Went to the top 1 or 2 uni in Australia. Did well on my GPA. Still looking for a job that is 9-5. I am currently working the job I have while I was in uni. Palia Cafe. Fighting with 18-19 kids to get more shift. I am 24. The good thing is that I am friends with the manager, so she got my back and I am in a management position. I am going back to grad school to do my medical laboratory scientist master. A couple of things I did wrong. A. Choose the wrong degree. I did a medical science degree, pre-med, which is too general. I did specialize in genetics and immunology, but in order to get a job in lab, you need at least a year of research experience honors. B. Being a non-resident. I am basically a second choice. I left my country because I can't be who I am if I stayed there, and my dad was happy to help me out. I hope things get better when I finished my master. I don't know what I want to do with my life, and I just feel like I'm job hopping, and yes, my college name does something, but doesn't help when you don't know which direction to go in. I did my undergrad at King's College London and my teacher training at University of Warwick. Worked as a teacher for 10 months. Got extremely stressed, insomniac, and ended up depressed by the end of the school year. Decided to take some time off to sort myself out. I haven't worked since last July, but thankfully I've managed to get a job for September. I really hope I will be able to cope this time round. I don't know what I would do if I were unable to continue to teach. Beware. Long depressing post. According to the Times Guardian tables, I have graduated from a top 5 UK university in engineering, but I absolutely hated it. It took me 4 years to get a 3-year degree because I'm a bit fricked in the head from the experience, although I never failed any modules classes. Been to A&E 3 times and to my GP many times over the final 2 years because I suspected I might have heart problems from the stress of you guessed it, the final year group project. But not for the reasons you might expect. Basically, I had really bad stabbing shooting pains across my upper left chest, which I still have every freaking day, and I also have duller pain constantly. They never find anything suggesting anything other than extreme tension from stress, which has continued for 2 years since then. Sometimes I wish they would find something bad that causes it rather than telling me to not worry about it. Cannot concentrate for crap and have no attention span because I am constantly thinking that I'm gonna drop dead from this soon. Cannot even begin to consider doing anything like work as it immediately makes it worse, although the idea of being a lazy bum is bad as well. That is why I have no job and don't apply for any. It sucks balls. Yes, I know I'm pretty depressed and have been to therapy and done other stuff, but it didn't help much. I have not been able to calm down, even for a few minutes, for years. It's like I have something permanently switched on that I can't switch off, and it's exhausting. I'm out of energy before I even brush my teeth in the morning. I'm trying to do little things every day like going for a walk, making sure I have a shower every day, and just hoping that I can eventually calm down, but I don't know if it's gonna happen before I have a heart attack. Don't know why I'm venting on Reddit, but yeah, TLDR. Still so stressed by it that I can't calm down years after it's over, and so I can't do crap because it still hurts a lot. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.